Hello everyone. Today on Geoscientists Voices, we are exploring the critical intersection of human activity and coastal resilience. I'm honored to be joined by Angelica Ovalle, a NOAA CCME2 Scholar and graduate research assistant at the Hart Research Institute. She specializes in using geospatial data to understand how land use impacts our vulnerable estuaries. Angelica, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Angelica, you are currently assessing how anthropogenic land use, basically human development, affects the health of estuaries in Texas.
hmm
Uh, for those of us who don't look at this data every day, like you do, what is the specific story the data is telling you about the Texas coast right now?
Okay. So kind of what you'd expect to see, as developed lands increase, we do see a drop in abundance and diversity of our benthic species. A lot of the studies mostly focus on the quantity of freshwater inflow, not so much the quality of it. So that's kind of what this project was aimed to do, although we didn't, spatial context can only give you so much. We worked with a lot of national land cover data, which is publicly accessible by the government. So there's a lot of layers to it, I think. And the thing is, with the spatial extent that we had, we didn't get a lot of context with it. But what we do know is that as developed lands increases, so does diversity. We're not saying correlation is causation. It's just something to consider. Another thing to consider is the way hydrology moves throughout the landscape. And with the landscape, um, with developed land being such a big part of these different watersheds we're looking at, it's important to incorporate these different developed lands into any kind of like hydrology management that we're looking at for restoration purposes. We also see we're losing mass amounts of forests in certain areas along the Texas coastline as well for, again, agricultural reasons, urbanization. Surprisingly, we didn't see a whole lot of a huge significance between the diversity of species, the water quality, all that with the agricultural expansion. We did expect to see that. As you might know, as agricultural increases, there might be certain pesticides or any kind of chemicals used on these lands that eventually lead to runoff and affect these downstream estuaries. We didn't really see that here, and I do think it's because of the lack of water we get as far as rainfall. So I think that's why we may not be seeing as much. But those are the biggest key takeaways, which again is more something that you'd expect to see, but it's nice having the numbers to back up that information.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell a lot with data, with numbers. So, like, thank you
hmm
for exploring this story, explain this story for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, it's a good topic. I like it a lot. It's fun.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I see why. I mean, that's important, and that's sort of like a detective story when you can see a lot of hidden details. So for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, putting it all together.
yeah. So you are a NOAA SCCME2 scholar. This is a
Mhm.
very specific and prestigious cohort focused on training a diverse workforce for the future. So how has being part of this community shaped your vision of what a scientist can do?
That's a great question because this specific scholarship that I have is literally is why I'm here. They allow me to not only put money into the research that I'm doing, but they also allow me to attend different conferences and workshops and things like that. They fund all of that, and that's a big part of being a scientist is communication, collaborating, networking. And I don't think I'd have that experience at all if I didn't have this scholarship. Like I said, they fly me out to different spots. I talk to people in similar fields. I recently came back from the surf meeting, the Coastal Estuarine Research Federation, and met with more people that are doing similar research. So you get to collaborate with um, others doing some, see what they're doing, seeing if you can implement any methods in your own research, branch out your, which as far as databases as well too, the things that they can be using that we have access to that they might not know about. And it does build a lot of character as a scientist. I feel like it feels like every time I have these opportunities, I come back with a lot more knowledge that I didn't have before about certain topics. And it's very diverse as well too. Like even if it's something that you might not be working on, you get different aspects of things that you might have known a little bit about, but it's a good opportunity. And I feel like this specific scholarship has allowed me to really branch out as a scientist. And not even that, but they hold a lot of professional development workshops as well too, for our own sake, like how to things like something as simple as how to apply for a government job or how to upload data as a scientist and things like that. So there's a lot of cool benefits to being a part of the new NOAA CCME2 Scholar, and I feel like it's not as well known about as well, in fairness, I didn't even know about it before I signed up for it. And I feel like that's one of the things that could be better about it is if they advertise themselves a little bit better, because I feel like it's a really good opportunity for a lot of students.
Well, maybe after this interview, more people find out about it, and
Yeah, hopefully apply if you can.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that looking at your explanations, like the alumni like network and official network is also pretty
Mhm.
strong, and you, I think, have a lot of colleagues who can advise to or ask their advice, vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. And plus you meet people in the actual field as well too, not just other students, but you meet real science, like not real scientists, we're real scientists, but like, find scientists in the work field. Um, People in private sectors and things like that too. And it helps to see different perspectives of all, not just students' perspectives, but people that are actually in the workforce and doing real life application work. So that also helps as well too, to kind of give a real life aspect to the research.
Sure, sure. So
Mhm.
your work relies heavily on temporal mapping,
Mhm.
looking at changes over time, as you said. So when
Mhm.
you analyze these decades of data and look at the trends, does the data generally make you optimistic about the future of restoration, or does it highlight how much work we still have left to do?
I think it's a little bit of both. So, I think I had mentioned that we do see different landscapes over time. So specifically, my
Yeah.
study looks at 30 years, and my research starts in early 1990s all the way to 2020, essentially. And there's some things that I'm hopeful for. With the study that I have, we did see a incline in wetlands, which is really good because before that was something that was concerning. But in fairness, right before my study, was the mass loss of wetlands that we had. So my study didn't capture that, but it was nice to see a gradual incline. So I will say restoration was working in that specific way. I cannot say anything for the water quality though. As time went on, over the 30 years, temperature did increase, dissolved oxygen did decrease. Yeah, as well too. So temperature increased, dissolved oxygen decrease, and that's something it takes a long time to do. And as far as restoration goes, I feel like again, this study didn't capture a whole lot of context. So, as much as we saw the land uses, we didn't really see the practices happening on them. We didn't see for agriculture, did they switch over to, more sustainable practices? Did they switch over to organic? Did these developed lands implement green infrastructure? Did, like things like that, we didn't really see. Um, I will say with the field that I'm in, it's easy to be surrounded by all the different conservation efforts that are happening. So it's encouraging to see that. It's nice to see that people, still care and they want to make a difference. But I will say, I think we have a lot of work to do. And it's going to be a very collaborative effort and not just with scientists, but all different areas of research, really.
Yeah, I think an understanding of whatever imperfections we have is the first step to actually start amending them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I'm really interested to talk about your career journey because you told about all these positive sides you get from being part of the NOAA cohort. But I know that your path to this research and to being this scholarship recipient wasn't straight line
Mhm.
from
Mhm.
undergrad.
Yeah.
You gained experience in the corporate and the service sectors before returning to high level science. So my question is, how do you feel your experience outside of the academic bubble, so to say, gave you a different perspective or set of skills that helps you now as a researcher?
Yeah. I think the things that I gained from having gained research or gained experience in the different sectors was writing was a big one. I did a lot of technical report writing for a certain job that I had, which was really good, which definitely came in handy for being a master's student. Communication as well too. I mean, I feel like I was always kind of good with communication as far as like I'd always been in the private sector, or I'm sorry, the service industry, even when I was in my undergrad. So that helped as well too. But kind of getting a more professional role of that, like an actual office, as opposed to being a server at some kind of restaurant, definitely helped as well too. Talking to people, I feel like with the different experiences I have in the service business, different levels of communication really helped as well too when it comes to presenting my research, for example. I have that, I guess, technical communication where I can adjust the tone of my research based off of the audience. So I can present to diverse audiences. That helps as well too. And then also realizing, I think what really helped me realize that I wanted to go back into science was being in the industry for so long and realizing like this isn't really what I want to do. So, but it was very helpful having that. And I will say the reason why it wasn't a straight line for me was because I actually had no intention of going to grad school until
Hmm.
the opportunity kind of just came of itself. I got a really good job with USAA. And they were like, "Hey, we'll pay for you back to school." And I'm like, "That's awesome. I'll do that." And I applied back for school. I found my advisor I currently have. I got offered a really good scholarship. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take it. I'll quit my job and I'll take
Yeah.
it." So that's kind of why I ended up in the path. It would have been silly, although it was a huge pay cut. It would have been silly to not take a full ride to graduate school. So that's kind of how I got back into the field. And I don't regret it at all. I am so happy I'm back here. It's something I'm passionate doing. I don't care that my pay got cut. It is something that I actually enjoy doing every single day I come in and I love my work.
Wow, because I know people who understood the same as you, but vice versa. They understood that like academic work wasn't for them, for like the not really high financial benefits, and like that you don't see immediate results of your actions. Like you have to wait for several years, and they just dropped. And you realize that that's along with a lot of positive sides. That's for you. So I mean, that's really great to realize that.
Yeah, it's really
That
hard to say I want to go back into academia. A lot of people don't say that.
That's like one of the hardest things to say, and to
Yeah.
go and like to go back once you. I mean, I wrote you on LinkedIn that I had 10 year detour for when I finished my master and like to return to like PhD. I also got an opportunity, so that's I mean that's really hard to like to put your for me at least to put myself back in the saddle because like I'm 35 and it's not the age where many people decide just to go into hardcore academia. So
hmm
I mean, you sort of you get me and I get you
I
that
get it. Yeah. No, as long as it's a
yeah,
straight path, then that's okay. I mean, as long as you're still doing what makes you happy, that's what matters, right? So,
yeah, sure. Uh, but now I want to talk about the beginnings of your interest in science. So take me back to before you were a NOAA scholar, and even before like you maybe did your first degrees. So was there a specific moment, maybe like a childhood memory of the ocean or a specific event in life where you knew I need to dedicate my career to the earth sciences?
I would like to thank my mom for that, actually. My mom was a big gardener, and I spent a lot of time outside as a kid because of that. She had lots of garden beds. She was very active in the local community with different local gardens and just active, even as an activist too. Like she was very involved in the community with science, and that I absolutely admired, I loved, and I realized I wanted to do that. I went to a high school that was like an early college high school. So you basically get your high school diploma at the same time you get your associate's degree. And so I was told my whole life, like, oh, you have time, you have time. When you get to college, you'll have time to figure out what you want to do, right? Well, I go to college, undergrad, to sign up and everything for my classes. I meet with an advisor, and she's like, no, you have to know what you want to do. Like, you have all your core
Mm,
classes done already. You have to know. And I'm like, well, I'll take agriculture because I feel like that's like a science, right? That's a science that I'm actually interested in when it comes down to the soils and all that, which I've always been interested in. And sure enough, as soon as I took the first intro into soils class, I absolutely loved it. A lot of people hated it. I don't know why they hated it. It was such an interesting class. Like that is the biggest, carbon sink that we have is our soil, besides the ocean as well too. But
yeah.
that's kind of what triggered all of it was, memories of being a kid and gardening and stuff like that with my mom. And I was grateful enough to have come into marine sciences, but I was able to combine both that passion for land use and soil specifically with the coastal ecosystem as well too. So being able to put those together was great because again, it all started with soil science that actually kind of ignited that whole passion for studying any kind of geoscience, really. But yeah, gardening, it'll do that to
Wow,
you.
wow. So I mean, I can only say good job like to your mom, who basically presented the world with the great scientists. So like love does it because my mom also like she like loved me and she presented me with a lot of books and
Hmm.
I loved reading and so like before AI especially it was important to read a lot of papers if you were like in a grad school. I mean you know that but like I had the stamina of reading a lot of papers so that's maybe my moment. So
Yeah,
yeah, but
moms have that
garden,
impact.
yeah, I mean they like the first your first door into anything like your positive like negative sides, but I mean luckily for us positive sides. So you got me thinking about my moment. Actually, I asked you, but I never thought about my moment, and I was
Tell your
like,
mom after this. Tell her you're thankful.
yeah. Ah, actually, I was planning on, so I'll definitely do that. Yeah. So another question I'm really interested in, and I ask every guest this question, basically to track trends in our field. What was the single biggest hurdle, whether financial, academic, or mental, that you personally had to overcome to succeed in the geosciences?
Yeah. I would say the biggest one was more personal and mental for me. I'm sure you know what imposter syndrome is, but I've had that and I
Mm.
continuously have that. And that's something that I need to stray away from just because I've gone to many conferences where I actually have won awards and stuff. And that actually kind of shook me out of that whole imposter syndrome that I have. Because I guess um, I always went to school thinking like it it was hard, but also at the same time, like I had fun doing it, but I didn't think I was that good at it. I just thought that like, it's just a weird feeling really with imposter syndrome because you don't really feel like you belong there. And then of course being in a very prestige institute in the very prestige cohort, like these people that I'm around are so smart around here. And so sometimes I see their projects and what they're presenting on, and I'm like, oh man, I don't deserve to be here. Like they're doing crazy stuff. And then I win awards and I'm like, oh, I guess my research isn't too bad? So I guess the biggest thing for me was constantly telling myself, you're not meant to be here. This isn't you. Like this isn't where you like, I don't know, it just felt weird. I felt out of place. And I guess it was also because growing up, I didn't always have the opportunity to do academia wasn't always a priority when I was growing up. I know
Mm-hmm.
I had to, I was 18, I was still living at home. I had to help my parents out with money and stuff. So I had to get a job. So I
Mm.
thought that was my life. I thought that I was meant to just wasn't academia. So being here really kind of that mentality I had for a long time was hard to shake. And sometimes I still feel like it. I mean, I even want to go for my PhD eventually. But I'm just like, can I get over that imposter syndrome? And a lot of people I talk to, it's funny, smart people I talk to, even with their PhD, they still tell me they're like, you're never gonna get over that. It's gonna be there forever. And I'm like, oh, thank God I'm not the only one that feels that. So a lot of people, experience it. Um, but I think that was probably the biggest challenge I had, was more personal and more on myself. But I'm very hard on myself. So it's kind of why too.
Yeah, I mean, you are not the only one. I have it too. So, but it's I mean, we have to overcome that. But I think that it also tells us that we are in great universities, in
Mhm.
great institutions, because otherwise, I mean, you because so many smart people around, and you're like, wow, they know a lot, but they have been in this business for many years, and they
Mhm.
like we, they didn't make any detour. They just like from the beginning they have been in this area. So I mean, yeah, so we'll definitely have to overcome that. It's
It's something that's a
yeah,
very universal feeling.
yeah, but it allows to keep us our heads like out of clouds, or I don't know how to say it, but anyways, like to be modest and
Mm.
not too full of
Arrogant.
ourselves. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too arrogant. Maybe there will be time to be arrogant, not
There's
today.
sometimes.
Yeah,
I will say my
yeah,
head got a little big whenever I got those words. I was like, oh.
yeah. Yeah, like sometimes this gratification is needed. It's
Yeah.
like for me when I was like dieting, I knew that the results would be like only in the future, so I had to gratify myself with some, I don't know, a cheeseburger or something like that.
Reward yourself.
To
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like okay, it's I mean it's a bit of cheating, but anyway. So
Now you need it. It's good soul food.
yeah, yeah, sure, sure, yeah. That's what I'm telling myself. Yeah, even like now, I'm always finding excuses to open my fridge. So that's why I try to stay out of home and just be in the lab, and
Yeah.
where it's not that easy.
It's a good spot. It's a good spot.
Yeah,
Second
yeah,
home
yeah,
away from home.
yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do. Uh, so let's talk about philosophical questions.
Hmm.
So in your work with water quality and nekton, which is swimming organisms, which I learned thanks to preparing for your interview. So what is one crucial biological and chemical process happening under the surface of the bay right now that the average person on the beach is completely unaware of?
Yeah, well, that's kind of the whole point of this research is actually looking at species that no one really thinks about, which are those nectin, majority benthic species, and those are the ones that live within the sediment and stuff. So a lot of people don't see what's going on in there, but they're very important. They're filter feeders. They're the bottom of the food chain. Everything that happens to them will eventually end up in that food chain. So there's like a domino effect and stuff, and it's definitely a chain reaction. If something goes wrong with the bottom species, these benthic species, something happens to the smaller nectin species, and something happens to the big species, and eventually gets to us. So that's something that is really important to realize is these benthic species are slowly not disappearing, but they are losing their diversity, which is it'll definitely have a chain reaction to all the other imbalance. Like one imbalance could cause a lot of other imbalances in other species as well too. So it's something to be aware of and kind of keep a close eye on, which is what a lot of people do over here. They look at a lot of benthic species such as like nematodes, arthropods, mini bivalves, things like that.
Yeah, wow. Well, thanks for enlightening me. I didn't know about this stuff, and many things happening without us knowing. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of maybe I'm getting repetitive, but I also want to talk about like how the situation, whether we can fix it or not. So we often talk about saving the cost for the next generations. So, but
Hmm.
if you look at the cost through a geological lens, thinking about sea level rise over thousands of years, which you kind of also like talked about the warming, all these kind of things. Do you
Hmm.
view the coastline as something we can actually fix by our like human effort, or is it something we just have to learn to retreat from as much as we can?
I will say the optimism in me can say we can fix it. I don't think that these efforts on the large scale are the solution, though. These huge efforts of trying to push things that don't really matter, like use paper straws and things like that, are not helpful. I think it really does. If we do want to fix it, I think it starts small with community, and that's the biggest thing that I push for everybody that wants to make an actual difference. Is you don't have to do anything crazy, join some huge program. I mean, you can if you want to, but like it starts small. Be involved with your community, work at local events that happen, coastal restoration efforts or stewardship efforts that they have. I know in my area there's coral reef rebuilding. I'm sorry, oyster reef rebuilding, such as like they collect the different oyster shells and they rebuild these reefs by putting them back out in the ocean. So efforts like that. In San Antonio, which is a couple hours away from me, there's also River Aid, which is like a cleanup area, like a cleanup for rivers and things like that. It's small things that add up that make a huge difference. And if we all collectively did things like that, it would start to make an impact. I wouldn't say I still believe that we should prioritize ecological modeling because I think we will continue to see these challenges in the future with our climatic warming or sea level rise, things like that. So it is important to be prepared for it, worst case scenario. And I think we can actually help it, but I think that it is smart to consider the possibility of it not working out just for the sake of not everyone has the same mentality as us. So got to remember that.
Sure, sure. So basically, we've been talking about the estuaries a
hmm
lot because it's like a point of your research. Uh,
hmm
and estuaries, I read about it, and like they often call the nurseries of the sea, if I'm correct.
hmm
At
hmm
least that's what I read. But yet they rarely get the same public attention or tourism appeal as coral reefs or deep oceans, which many people like talk about.
hmm
So, if you had 1 minute to convince the public why protecting these specific zones is critical for our survivals, like as the same as protecting coral reefs, deep oceans, and other areas, so what would you say in this case?
Well, minutes, a little bit of time. Well, yes, coral reefs are great. There all these different ecosystems have their benefits, but I will say estuaries, the reason why they're called nurseries of the sea is because a lot of these species, a lot of fish species or larger fish species, they'll come into these estuaries to actually nurse, and that's actually why it's so popular for these environments are so popular for the species, not even just that, but birds as well too. So it's a very diverse type of ecosystem. They actually can obtain sometimes more organic matter, more so than oceans and rivers together or alone. So quite a lot of organic matter there. There are also coastal barriers in some areas. If the estuary has certain types of vegetation, they can actually act as barriers against coastal hazards for coastal infrastructure. So that's another thing too. If we want to look back at how does this benefit us, it benefits us in the fact that it protects us from storms. The healthier are these estuaries are, the more likely we are to not get as impacted by these hurricanes that we're seeing in mass, especially the Texas coastline. Hasn't been bad yet, knock on wood, but there has been quite a few areas with mangroves absorbing any kind of wave action or things like that. And yeah, that's the biggest one really is that. And also for fisheries, I mean the economy as well too. People depend on these systems to function properly because if there's more juvenile species in these more nurseries, there's more fish, there's more diversity of these fish. This a huge reason why people come to the Texas coastline is for fishing. It's the huge, like the biggest sector we have here. So it does impact us directly, very much so. So if these go down, our economy goes down.
Well, yeah, we wouldn't want it, and
No.
you you totally convinced me. So if I'm the public, then you did the job that I offered
Okay,
you to do
thank
here with
God.
this question. Yeah. Uh, so finally, looking at the future of coastal science and the next generation of researchers, uh, in just one single word, how would you describe the future of geosciences or earth sciences for this matter?
Mm, I would say interdisciplinary. I think I touched on this earlier, but there's a lot of important reasons for why research needs to include different diverse areas, to kind of get the whole picture. Because you can look at one thing and think you see the whole picture, and there'd be a lot more to it. For example, my research, again, like I talked about the land use, it's good for the spatial context, but there's a lot more that goes on underneath that. And that's where I depended a lot on other researchers and what they looked at as far as what was happening on these land uses, like the actual practices that were being done. So that was a different type of study, I feel like, but also they were more specialized in land uses as opposed to me where I'm looking at both land use and ocean. So again, this is a good example of how one research project can actually have so much more context if you bring in other researchers together. So I feel like it's very important to collaborate and network and communicate with others if you can. If you're a researcher and you can go to all these different conferences, talk to anybody you can, anything that might slightly interest you. You might not even know, but like you might talk to somebody who has a totally different research aspect, but they actually know a little bit about yours and they can give you some intel as well too. So it's like it really does come back to collaboration and networking when it comes to progressing geosciences as a whole. And so I would definitely say interdisciplinary is that word because it matters. There needs to be a lot of different aspects to look at one and to come up with one solution. So,
Yeah, well, I totally agree with you. I just don't have even anything to add. It's that's what we have to strive for in geosciences.
mhm.
So, Angelica, thank you so much. Your work is vital for the future of coasts, and your story is so inspiring. And I enjoyed a lot talking to you, and I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.